Shaddai, Adonai, El 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 Shaddai, Yahuah, my Elohim. Oh, we lift up your holy name. We lift up your holy name, Yahuah. Your only name, name above all names, name above all names. Cover me, cover me, cover me in your love, in your love, in your love, in your love, yeah. Cover me, cover me, cover me in your love, in your love, in your love, in your love, yeah. Cover me, cover me, cover me in your love, in your love, in your love, in your love, yeah. Cover me, cover me, cover me in your love, in your love, in your love, in your love, yeah. Cover me, cover me, cover me in your love, in your love, in your love, in your love, yeah. Cover me, cover me, cover me in your love, in your love, in your love, in your love, yeah. Cover me, cover me, cover me in your love, in your love, in your love, in your love, yeah. Cover me, cover me, cover me in your love, in your love, in your love, in your love, oh,
All right, shalom and welcome everybody. So today is our 10th midweek Midrash this week. Praise Yahuah. And let me go ahead and let's see, I got to get my tabs back up that I had because I had to restart my computer for my microphone to work. So we're going to be reading from Enoch chapter 80. And we're definitely going to cover 82 as well. and we'll see as far as we can go. And hold on one second. Let me get it on screen here. And then I also have from the Dead Sea Scrolls. Hold on one second. Pulling it up here. So we're going to have the chapters after Enoch 82 as well. So very interesting stuff we're going to dig into. And it all relates to the calendar as well. All praise to the Most High Yahuah. So let me go ahead and share my screen. And we're going to be starting here in chapter 80 of the Book of Enoch. And before we begin, let me go ahead and say a prayer. Father Abba Yahuah, we come to you in prayer to ask for your blessings and your guidance as we read and we study through your word. Help to show us your truths and help us to change our hearts and our minds to better follow you and your ways, and to be able to discern through all the lies that we are told. And I wanted to pray a special prayer for those who are struggling through sicknesses, through trials and tribulations, whatever it may be. We all need your strength and your help, Father. Help us all to be able to endure to the end. And I pray to you in the name of Yahushua HaMashiach. Let it be so. So, if you remember our last reading, we covered, I think it was 72 to 79. And that was all the courses of the luminaries and all about the calendar. And this is going to start getting into a little bit more about, the end times, and chapter 82 gets more into the star leaders and things like that. And normally chapter 82 will end after verse 20 in all of our, modern books of Enoch. But in the Dead Sea Scrolls, we see there is much more in them. Or we will see that here. But let me go ahead and begin. So Enoch chapter 80. In those days, the messenger Uriel answered and said to me, See, I have shown you all the matters, Hanok. And I have revealed to you all that you should see, this sun and this moon, and the leaders of the stars of the Shamayim, and all those who turn them, their tasks and their times and departures. And in the days of the sinners, the years shall be shortened, and their seed shall be late on their lands and their fields, and on all the earth it shall alter, and not appear in their time. And the rain shall be kept back, and the Shamayim shall withhold. So this is pretty interesting here in verse 2. It was kind of a lot packed into there. But we see, in the days of the sinners, the years will be shortened, and their seed shall be late on their lands. So, we can kind of see this nowadays where, things will be blooming in the wintertime, things that normally don't bloom. And then, we'll have, winter storms in the dead of summer, and then hot days in the dead of winter. Things get kind of topsy-turvy nowadays, and we see that. And so continuing here in verse 3, and in those times the fruits of the earth shall be backward, and shall not grow in their time, and the fruits of the trees shall be withheld in their time. And the moon shall alter her order, and not appear at her time. And in those days the sun shall be seen, and he shall journey in the evening on the extremity of the great chariot in the west, and shall shine more brightly in accordance with the order of light. And at least here in the desert, I can kind of see that. Seems like the sun shines super bright here. And many chiefs of the stars shall transgress the order, and these shall alter their orbits and their tasks, and not appear at the seasons prescribed to them. And I'm pretty sure this says alter their course, not orbits, because we don't live on a ball. Anyway, and the whole order of the stars shall be concealed from the sinners, and the thoughts of those on the earth shall err concerning them, and they shall be altered from all their ways. Also, they shall go astray and take them to be mighty ones. So that's a pretty powerful verse there as well. The whole order of the stars will be concealed from the sinners. And we actually see that because not many people understand the stars or how they work, or the moon, or the sun even. And, we see, taking them to be mighty ones. We got people observing these new moon days and blowing shofars at the new moon and things like that. And, if that isn't, taking them as mighty ones, I don't know what is. And the Book of Jubilees warns us, do not be following the moon like that. That's exactly what Babylon does. And it's because most people don't understand how the moon actually works, unfortunately. But continuing, verse 8, and evil shall be multiplied on them, and punishment shall come upon them so as to destroy all. In chapter 81, and he said to me, observe, Enoch, these tablets of the Shamayim, and read what is written upon them, and mark every individual fact. And I observed the tablets of the Shamayim, and he read all which was written, and understood all matters, and read the book of all the deeds of mankind, and of all the children of flesh that shall be upon the earth, to the remotest generations. And immediately I Baruch, the great Adon, the sovereign of esteem forever, and that he has made all the works of the world. And I exalted Yahuah because of his patience, and Baruch him because of the children of men. And after that I said, Baruch is the man who dies in righteousness and goodness, concerning who there is no book of unrighteousness written, and against whom no day of judgment shall be found. Yep. This is why we got to strive to be, written in that book of life. And those 7 Kodeshim brought me and placed me on the earth before the door of my house, and said to me, declare all matters to your son Methuselah, and show all your children that no flesh is righteous in the sight of Yahuah, for he is their creator. 1 year we will leave you with your son, until you give your commands, that you may teach your children and record for them, and witness to all your children. In the 2nd year they shall take you from their midst. And let your heart be strong, for the good shall announce righteousness to the good. The righteous with the righteous shall rejoice, and shall offer congratulations to one another. But the sinners shall die with the sinners, and the backslider go down with the backslider. Ooh. And those who practice righteousness shall die on account of the deeds of men, and be taken away on account of the doings of the wicked. And in those days they ceased they ceased to speak to me, and I came to my people, giving a barakah, and to the Adon of the world. Yeah, in the 2nd year. 2nd year from, I'm not sure. Yeah, so 1 year we leave you with your son, and then in the 2nd year they shall take you from the midst. And I believe it's talking about the 7 Kodeshim, or the 7 angels. Interesting. You got any thoughts about that, sister?
Sorry, I had to find my phone to unmute it. Um, I thought that was really interesting. I'm like, in the second year of what? So, like, are they talking about the second year of like that sabbatical cycle? And then, like, you were reading back on the context, but you said something about the angels. So, like, when I heard that, I was correlating it to how many years Enoch was alive. And then in the second year, you'll be taken from in the mist, like he was taken up in the second year.
Yeah, no, interesting. And I like that from in the midst. That's
Yeah.
actually found, it's found more often than not.
Well, and then so like that number 364 is also a year one. Um, and then year 365 would be a year two, and he's taken from in the mist. So I don't know.
Wow.
It was just something like I'd have to like crunch the numbers or the math on that to see if like the Jubilee cycles would actually fall that way. Um, I don't know. I can't do it in
Yeah.
my head. But yeah, I thought that was interesting.
No, very interesting. And it probably does have something to do with that Jubilee cycle. We got to figure those out. 100%.
Yeah, make a note of that because I'm driving, so I can't write it down. Please. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Where do you want me to make a note? In the chat?
Just text it to me.
Okay, I can do that. Figure out the Jubilee year. So this chapter here, chapter 82. So this is the one. So as we see, if we scroll down, it's going to end at verse 20. But we got something special here from the Dead Sea Scrolls. And I love it actually because it's actually evidence that, the Book of Enoch has been tampered with and things have been removed and changed. So let's get into it. So chapter 82. And now my son, Methuselah, all these I am recounting to you and writing down for you. And I have revealed to you all matters and given you books concerning all of these. So preserve, my son Methuselah, the books from your father's hand, and deliver them to the generations of the world. And I have given wisdom to you and your children that shall be unto you, that they may give it to their children for generations, this wisdom that passes their thought. And the interesting thing about that is, Noah had a library of books or scrolls that he took with him on the ark. And then he passed those down to his children and all the way down to Moses, who had those same scrolls. And that's how Moses knew a lot about the laws and the commands already. That's why Yahuah chose him. But it's very interesting. Here we see Enoch writing about it. And those who understand it shall not sleep, but shall listen with the ear, that they may learn this wisdom, and shall pass it to those that eat of it, better than good food. Boom. Don't be asleep, Don't be caught sleeping when there's work to be done for the kingdom. So Baruch are all the righteous, and Baruch are all those who walk in the way of righteousness, and do not sin as the sinners, in the reckoning of all their days, in which the sun traverses the Shamayim, entering into and departing from the portals for 30 days, with the heads of the thousands of the orders of stars, together with the four which are intercalated, which divide the four portions of the year, which lead them and enter with them 4 days. So we see this is going to get in the 4 intercalary days and the 4 star leaders that divide the 4 portions of the year. Also showing how important the number 4 is. A lot of people don't realize that. But what we see here is the mention of the sun and then the stars. And that gives credence to it's the sun and the stars that bring in all the years to the 364 days. So owing to them, men shall be at fault and not reckon them in the whole reckoning of the year. Also, men shall be at fault and not recognize them accurately. So these 4 intercalary days, we see men don't even reckon them unless they're on the Zadok calendar. But then there's also ones that don't recognize them accurately. Put on the closest Wednesday to it, right? No, that's not accurate. For they belong to the reckoning of the year and are truly recorded forever. One in the first portal, one in the third, one in the fourth, one in the sixth, and the year is complete in the 364 days. And the account thereof is accurate, and the reckoning thereof exact. Sorry, that's strangely worded there. For the lights and the months and the festivals and the years and the days, as Uriel has shown and revealed to me, to whom the Adon of the whole creation of the world has subjected the host of the Shamayim. So again, we see the account thereof is accurate. The account of what? The sun and the stars. And it's the sun and the stars, as we read here, is for months, festivals, years, and days. The moon is just the third witness to all of this. It's not the determining factor like many people like to think, unfortunately. All right, so verse 8. And he has power over night and day in the Shamayim, to cause the light to give light to men, the sun, the moon, and the stars, and all the powers of the Shamayim, which revolve in their circular chariots. And these are the orders of the stars, which go down in their places, and in their appointed times, and festivals, and months. These are the names of those who lead them, and who watch that they enter at their times, in their orders, in their seasons, in their months, and in their periods of dominion, and in their positions. Their 4 leaders, who divide the 4 parts of the year, enter first, and after them the 12 leaders of the orders, who divide the months. And for the 360 there are heads over thousands, who divide the days, and the 4 intercalary days there are leaders, which divide the 4 parts of the year. So we see the 360 stars, and then the 4 intercalary day leader stars. And these heads over thousands are intercalated between leader and leader, each behind a station, but their leaders make the division. And these are the names of the leaders who divide the 4 parts of the year, which are ordained: Malchiel, Alamelech, yes, there it is, and Melechiel and Neriel. So these are the star leaders for those 4 intercalary days, like we just read here. These are the ones that are making those divisions, the 4 divisions each year for each season. And the names of those who lead them are Ardnel, Yasusael, Elomiel, and these three follow the leaders of the orders. And there is one that follows the three leaders of the orders, which follow those leaders of stations that divide the 4 parts of the year. So in the beginning, Kyle rises first and rules, whose name is Tamanini and Shemesh, and all the days of his dominion while he bears rule are 91 days. And these are the signs of the days which are to be seen on earth in the days of his dominion. So this is speaking about the first star leader that rises in the beginning of the year. And it's going to go on to show what season. And this is going to be describing spring right here. So there's sweat and heat and calms. And all the trees bear fruit. And the leaves are produced on all the trees. And the harvest of the wheat and the rose flowers and all the flowers which come forth in the field. But the trees of the winter season become withered. So we see this is when the things start sprouting forth, blooming, the wheat is gathered and all of that. So this happens in the spring. And these are the names of the leaders which are under them: Barachiel, Zebstabel, and another who is added, ahead of 1,000, called Hilo Yosef. And the days of his dominion are at an end. The next leader after him is Helemelech, who one names the shining sun, and all the days of his light are 91 days. And these are the signs of the days on the earth: the glowing heat, the dryness. The trees ripen their fruit and produce all their fruits ripe and ready. And the sheep pair and become pregnant, and all the fruits of the earth are gathered in, and all that is in the fields and the winepress. These take place in the days of his dominion. So this is describing the summer season. And then we have this last verse. So we've only got 2 seasons described here, which is very fascinating. And it's like that for a reason. So these are the names of the orders and the leaders of those heads of thousands. Gedaliah. Apologies, I'm probably butchering these names. Quiel and Hael. The name of 1,000 which is added to them, Asaphael. And the days of his dominion are at an end. So then we see it just goes on to 83, but wait, there's more in the Dead Sea Scrolls here. I will take this link here and share it in the chat. So this is the Book of Enoch from the Dead Sea Scrolls. And I'll full screen it here. So as we can see, right here, it's 4Q Enoch Astronomical, or Anaster. But it stands for Enoch Astronomical. So we see this is after Enoch 8220. And then this is what was found on the fragments or the scrolls. And then this is going to be the translation of that. So we're going to see it continuing into the next seasons as well here. So the 3 dots mean there's missing text. It was blank there. So the clouds which make dew, and the rain falling upon the earth, and the seed, herbs of the earth and trees, and the sun rises and sets, and then winter comes, and leaves of all the trees wither and fall down, except the 14 trees for which it is not fitting, their leaves remain. So we can see it continues into autumn after verse 20, but that's fragmented out. But then it continues after that and speaks directly about winter coming. And then also mentions again the 14 trees, the pine trees species, that their leaves remain. And that's still, that's a fact today. There's 14 different species of pine trees. Pretty amazing. All right, so continuing. So this blank from its measure, a 10th part of a 9th part, blank a 10th part of a 9th part, and the stars move through the first gates of the heavens, and then they come forth. On the first days, 1/10 by 1/6, and on second days, 1/15 by 1/6, on third days, 1/30 by 1/6. On the 15th day, in the same day, only in this night, from a 3rd part of a 9th part, and 5 and a 10th part of a 9th part. It's very fragmented out, as you can see. But this seems to be describing those star leaders and how exactly they come in, and how you can determine each day of the month by these stars in the heavens. And I wanted to read the commentary here because it's very fitting for it. So the Greek translator of the astronomical book had at his disposal only a single manuscript, the last part of which, probably a whole sheet composed of 4 or 5 columns, was mutilated. Yep, it was mutilated, probably on purpose. And alternatively, it was perhaps the Ethiopic translator who had at his disposal a mutilated copy of the Greek version. So that's their excuse why none of this was included in the Ethiopian one. They just say, oh, it was mutilated, But then they make no mention that, oh, look, there's verses after it, 82:20. Let me continue here. So after the description of the spring, which is 82:15 through 17, and of the summer, 18 through 20, there must inevitably have come, in the Aramaic original, the description of autumn and winter. Now, the description of winter is found in Esnar D. So this is the Book of Enoch Astronomical. After the section concerning the 4 seasons of the year came the final part, in which the author briefly outlined the movements of the stars on the celestial sphere, divided into 360 degrees. Indeed, at 2:4, it is said that the stars move about. At lines 5 through 6 of the same column, 3 fractions are mentioned: a 10th by a 6, or 1/60th, is 6 degrees. A 15th by a 6, thus 1/90th, equals 4 degrees. And a 30th by a 6, or 1/180, equals 2 degrees. This reckoning of the astral evolutions covered only 1 month. In other words, the author was synchronizing the movements of the stars and the movements of the sun. And as a result, he speaks of first days, second, etc. of each month. And at 2:5, the singular, I don't know how to pronounce that word there, is distinctly corrected to that. The copyist, however, forgot to make an identical correction for this word at the beginning of this line, and perhaps for day 15. However, the state of preservation for the fragments of Estenar does not seem to me at all adequate to support any more detailed restoration of the text. So what they're saying is they don't have enough information to complete any more of that text that we see here. But we do see that it was purposely left out, and I believe it's to prevent the calendar from being found, which we know that can't happen. We have a lot of the evidence here. But we do see it goes into those other two corresponding seasons, and it doesn't just end at, verse 20. And it's very interesting. I honestly wish those full copies of the Book of Enoch were, available to the public. Unfortunately, they are not right now. Because I'm sure they explain a whole lot of things. And it's interesting because a lot of these controversial verses, they're the ones that are fragmented out in the Dead Sea Scrolls version of Enoch. I think it was done on purpose to hide the truth. But pretty interesting stuff there. All right, so Enoch 83. And now, my son Methuselah, I will show you all my visions on which I have seen, recounting them before you. 2 visions I saw before I took a wife, and the one was quite unlike the other. The first when I was learning to write, and the second before I took your mother. I saw a terrible vision. And regarding them, I prayed to Yahuah. I had laid down in the house of my grandfather Mahalalel, and I saw in a vision how the Shamayim collapsed and was taken away and fell to the earth. And when it fell to the earth, I saw how the earth was swallowed up in a great abyss, and mountains were suspended on mountains, and hills sank down on hills, and high trees were torn from their stems, and hurled down and sunk in the abyss. And after that a word fell into my mouth, and I lifted up to cry aloud, and said, The earth is destroyed. And my grandfather Mahalalel woke me as I lay near him, and he said to me, Why do you cry so, my son? And why do you make such lamentation? And I recounted to him the whole vision which I had seen, and he said to me, A terrible matter you have seen, my son, and of grave moment is your vision as to the secrets of all the sin of the earth. It must sink into the abyss and be destroyed with a great destruction. And now, my son, arise and make petition to Yahuah of esteem, since you are a believer, that a remnant may remain on the earth, and that he may not destroy the whole earth. My son, from the Shamayim, all this will come upon the earth, and upon the earth there will be great destruction. And after that I arose and prayed, and implored and pleaded, and wrote down my prayer for the generations of the world. And I will show all matters to you, my son Methuselah. And when I had gone forth below and seen the Shamayim, and the sun rising in the east, and the moon going down in the west, and a few stars, the whole earth, and all as he had known it in the beginning. And then I Baruch Yahuah of right ruling, and exalted him, because he had made the sun to go forth from the windows of the east. And he ascended and rose on the face of the Shamayim, and departed and kept traversing the path shown to him. Pretty interesting stuff. So chapter 84. And I lifted up my hands in righteousness, and Baruch the Kodesh and Great One, and spoke with the breath of my mouth, and with the tongue of flesh, which Elohim has made for the children of flesh of men, that they should speak with. And he gave them breath, and a tongue, and a mouth, that they should speak with. Baruch are you, O Adon, sovereign, great and mighty in your greatness, the Adon of whole creation, of the Shamayim, sovereign of sovereigns, and Elohim of the whole world. And your power and reign and greatness abide forever and ever, and throughout all generations. Your dominion and all the Shamayim are your throne forever, and the whole earth your footstool forever and ever. For you have made and you rule all, and no matter is too hard for you. Wisdom does not part from the place of your throne, nor turn away from your presence. And you know and see and hear all matters, and there is none hidden from you, for you see all. Yahuah sees everything, 100%. There's nothing that can be hidden from him. And, it's all a matter of the heart. It really is. Do we have a heart to seek Yahuah and follow Yahuah in his ways? Or do we have a heart for the world and what it has to offer, which is Satan? And now the messengers of your Shamayim are guilty of trespass, and upon the flesh of men your wrath abides until the great day of judgment. And now, O Elohim and Adon, and great sovereign, I implore and pray to fulfill my prayer, to leave me a posterity on the earth, and not destroy all the flesh of man, and make the earth without inhabitant, so that there should be an eternal destruction. And now, Adonai, destroy from the earth the flesh which has aroused your wrath, but the flesh of righteousness and uprightness establish as a plant of the eternal seed. And do not hide your face from the prayer of your servant, O Yahuah. And that's so very true and so very deep as well. It's because of these pleas from men like, Enoch and Moses and Abraham that, there is a remnant here, and we are that remnant if we choose to follow him. There can't be any fence riding, and we see that there is a day of judgment that comes, and we all have to take accountability for all of our own actions on that day. And that's when we are judged by our works and our fruits. So, it's better to go through these trials and tribulations right now to get that refinement and face that judgment now, rather than to face it on the day of judgment. And that's when you're taking accountability for everything that you have done. Each and every one of us. And if we choose to follow Yahuah, he will wipe our sins clean. He will cover our sins. He will blot them out. But if we turn our back on Yahuah, if we turn our back on Yahuah's people, we turn our back on his word, it's not a good thing. We'll be tossed in that lake of fire. All right, let's see how long we've been going here. 46 minutes. I think we can do one more chapter here, since there's only Marissa and Andrea here. Thank you both for staying and listening, putting up with my scratchy voice.
No, you're fine.
Oh, thank you, Andrea. And thank you, Marissa. All right, so chapter 85. How long? It's not even that long. So, and after this, I saw another dream, and I will show the whole dream to you, my son. And Hanok lifted up and spoke to his son Methuselah. To you, my son, will I speak. Hear my words, and incline your ear to the vision of your father. Before I took your mother, Edna, I saw in a vision in my bed, and see, a bull came forth from the earth, and the bull was white. And after it came forth a heifer, and along with this came forth two bulls, one of them black and the other red. And the black bull gored the red one and pursued him over the earth. And I could no longer see the red bull because it had wings, you know. I'm just kidding. But the black bull grew, and the heifer went with him. And I saw that many oxen proceeded from him, which resembled and followed him. And the cow, the first one, went from the presence of the first bull in order to seek the red one, but did not find, and lamented with a great lamentation over him, and sought him. And I looked until the first bull came to her and quieted her. And from that time onward, she cried no more. And after that, she bore another white bull. And after him, she bore many bulls and black cows. And I saw in my sleep the white bull likewise grow and become a great white bull. And from him proceeded many white bulls, and they resembled him. And they began to bring forth many white bulls, which resembled them, one following the other, very many. So this is that prophecy that we see, and I should have looked more into this before continuing, honestly. But I'm pretty sure the white bull represents the remnant, those who are the righteous, set apart. And we're going to read 86 to see, because I think it actually explains it a bit more here in 86. Yeah. So chapter 86. And I saw again with my eyes as I slept, and I saw the Shamayim above, and see, a star fell from the Shamayim, and it arose and ate and pastured amongst those oxen. And after that, I saw a large and the black oxen, and see, they all changed their stalls and pastures and their cattle, and began to live with each other. And again I saw in the vision, and I looked towards the Shamayim, and see, I saw many stars descend and cast themselves down from the Shamayim to the first star. And they became bulls among those cattle, and pastured with them amongst them. And I looked at them and saw, and see, they all let out their members like horses, and began to cover the cows of the oxen. And they all became pregnant, and brought forth elephants, camels, and donkeys. And all the oxen feared them, and were frightened at them, and began to bite with their teeth, and devour, and to gore with their horns. And they began also to devour those oxen, and see, all the children of the earth began to tremble and quake before them, and to flee from them. Yeah, this is about the fallen angels. All right, we're going to keep going. So chapter 87, and again I saw how they began to gore each other and to devour each other. And the earth began to cry aloud. And I raised my eyes again to the Shamayim, and I saw in the vision, and see, there came forth from the Shamayim beings who were like white men, and 4 went forth from that place, and 3 with them. And those 3 that had last come forth grasped me by my hand, and took me up, away from the generations of the earth, and raised me up into a high place, and showed me a tower raised high above the earth, and all the hills were lower. And one said to me, remain here until you see all that befalls those elephants, camels, and donkeys, and the stars, and the oxen, and all of them. And I saw one of those 4 who had come forth first, and he seized the first star which had fallen from the Shamayim, and bound it hand and foot, and cast it into an abyss. Now the abyss was narrow and deep, and horrible and dark. And one of them drew a sword, and gave it to those elephants and camels and donkeys. Then they began to smite each other, and the whole earth quaked because of them. And I was watching in the vision, and see, one of those four who had come forth, thrown from the Shamayim, and gathered and took all the great stars, whose members were like those of horses, and bound them all hand and foot, and cast them into the abyss of the earth. Excuse me. And one of those four went to the white bull and instructed him in secret. Without being terrified, he was born a bull and became a man, and built for himself a great vessel and dwelt upon it. And 3 bulls dwelt with him in the vessel, and they were covered in. And again I raised my eyes towards the Shamayim and saw a high roof, with 7 water torrents upon them. And those torrents flowed with much water into an enclosure. So this is definitely about Noah. And I saw again, and see, fountains were opened on the surface of the great enclosure. And the water began to swell and rise up on the surface. And I saw the enclosure until all of its surface was covered with water. And the water, the darkness, and the mist increased upon it. And as I looked at the height of the water had risen above the height of the enclosure, and was streaming over the enclosure, and it stood upon the earth. And all the cattle of the enclosure were gathered together, until I saw how they sank, and were swallowed up, and perished in the water. But the vessel floated on the water, while all the oxen and elephants and camels and donkeys sank to the bottom with all the animals, so that I could no longer see them, and they were not able to escape, perished and sunk into the depths. And then again I saw in the vision, until those water torrents were removed from the high roof, and the chasms of the earth were leveled up, and other abysses were opened. And then the water began to run down into these, until the earth became visible. But the vessel rested on the earth, and the darkness withdrew, and light appeared. But the white bull, which had become a man, came out of the vessel, and the 3 bulls with him, and one of those 3 was white like the bull. One of them was red as blood, and one black. And the white bull departed from them. And they began to bring forth beasts of the field and birds, so that there arose different kinds, lions and tigers, wolves, dogs, hyenas, wild boars, foxes, squirrels, pigs, hawks, vultures, hawks. Why is hawks in there twice? Interesting. Eagles and ravens. And among them was born a white bull. And they began to bite one another. But that white bull which was born among them brought forth a wild donkey, and a white bull with it. And the wild donkeys multiplied. But the bull which was born from him brought forth a black wild boar, and a white sheep. And the former brought forth many boars, but the sheep brought forth 12 sheep. And this is about the Jacob and the 12 patriarchs. And when those 12 sheep had grown, they gave up one of them to the donkeys. And those donkeys again gave up that sheep to the wolves. And the sheep grew up among the wolves. And the Adon brought the 11 sheep to live with it and pasture with it among the wolves. And they multiplied and became many flocks of sheep. So that's clearly about Joseph right there as well. And the wolves began to terror them, and they oppressed them until they cried aloud on the account of their little ones, and to complain unto their Adon. And the sheep which had been saved from the wolves fled and escaped to the wild donkeys. And I saw the sheep, how they lamented and cried, and pleaded their Adon with all their might, until that Adon of the sheep descended at the voice of the sheep from a high abode, and then came and pastured with them. And he called the sheep which had escaped the wolves, and spoke with it concerning the wolves, that it should warn them not to touch the sheep. And the sheep went to the wolves according to the word of the Adon, and another sheep met it, and went with it. And the two went and entered together into the assembly of those wolves, and spoke with them, and warned them not to touch the sheep from here on. And after that I saw the wolves, and how they oppressed the sheep exceedingly, with all their power, and the sheep cried aloud. And the Adon came to the sheep, and they began to smite those wolves, and the wolves began to make lamentation. But the sheep became quiet, and immediately ceased to cry out. And I saw the sheep, they departed from amongst the wolves, but the eyes of the wolves were blinded, and the wolves departed in pursuit of the sheep with all their might. And as we can see now, this is about Moses and Aaron and the Exodus. Pretty interesting, because this was all shown to Enoch before the flood even happened. Because remember, Enoch was pre-flood. And the Adon of the sheep went with him as their leader, and all his sheep followed him, and his face was dazzling and magnificent and awesome to look upon. But the wolves began to pursue the sheep until they reached the sea of water. And the sea was divided, and the water stood still on this side and on that before their face. And their Adon led them and placed himself between them and the wolves. That was that pillar of fire and that cloud as well. And as the wolves did not yet see the sheep, they proceeded into the midst of the sea. And the wolves followed the sheep, and the wolves ran after them into the sea. And when they saw the Adon of the sheep, they turned to flee before his face. But the sea gathered itself together, and became as it had been created. And the water swelled and rose until it covered the wolves. And I saw until all the wolves who pursued the sheep perished and were drowned. But the sheep escaped from the water and went forth into a wilderness, where there was no water and no grass. And they began to open their eyes and to see. And I saw the Adon of the sheep pasturing them and giving them water and grass, and that sheep going down and leading them. And that sheep ascended to the summit of that high rock, and the Adon of the sheep sent it to them. And after that I saw the Adon of the sheep who stood before them, and his appearance was great and awesome and majestic. And all the sheep saw him and were afraid before his face. And they all feared and trembled because of him. And they cried to that sheep with them, which was amongst them, "We are not able to stand before our Adon, or to look upon him." And that sheep which led them again ascended to the summit of the rock. But the sheep began to be blinded and to wander from the way which he had shown them. But that sheep was not thereof. And the Adon of the sheep was wrathful exceedingly against them. And that sheep discovered it, and went down from the summit of the rock, and came to the sheep, and found the greatest part of them blinded and fallen away. And when they saw it, they feared and trembled at its presence, and desired to return to their folds. And that sheep took other sheep with it, and it came to those sheep which had fallen away, and began to slay them. And the sheep feared its presence, and thus that sheep brought back those sheep that had fallen away, and they returned to their folds. And I saw in this vision until that sheep became a man, and built a house for the Adon of the sheep, and placed all the sheep in the house. And I saw till the sheep which had met that sheep which led them fell asleep. And I saw until all the great sheep perished, and the little ones arose in their place. And they came to a pasture, and approached a stream of water. Then that sheep, their leader, which had become a man, withdrew from them and fell asleep. And all the sheep sought it and cried over it with a great crying. And I saw until they ceased crying for that sheep and crossed that stream of water. And there arose the 2 sheep as leaders in the place of those which had led them and fallen asleep. And I saw until the sheep came to a pleasant place, and a pleasant and magnificent land. And I saw until those sheep were satisfied, and the house stood among them in the pleasant land. And sometimes their eyes were opened, and sometimes blinded, until another sheep arose, and led them and brought them all back, and their eyes were opened. And the dogs and the foxes and the wild boars began to devour those sheep, until the Adon of sheep raised up another sheep, a ram from their midst, which led them. And the ram began to butt on either side of these dogs, foxes, and wild boars, until he had destroyed them all. And that sheep whose eyes were opened saw the ram, which was among the sheep, until it forsook its esteem, and began to butt those sheep, and trampled upon them, and behaved itself indecently. And the Adon of the sheep sent the lamb to another lamb, and raised it to being a ram. And the leader of the sheep, instead of that ram which had forsaken its esteem, and it went to it and spoke to it alone, and raised it to being a ram, and made it the prince and leader of the sheep. But during all these, those dogs oppressed the sheep. And the first ram pursued the second ram, and the second ram arose and fled before it. And I saw until the dogs pulled down the first ram, and the second ram arose and led the little sheep. And those sheep grew and multiplied, but all the dogs and foxes and wild boars feared and fled before it. And the ram butted and killed the wild beasts. And those wild beasts had no longer any power among the sheep, and robbed them no more. And the ram brought forth many sheep and fell asleep. And a little sheep became a ram in its place, and became prince and leader of those sheep. So we see that was speaking about David, and then now Solomon. Pretty amazing stuff. You know, honestly, I had forgotten that all this was in the Book of Enoch. I can't believe I forgot that. All right, so verse 50. And the house became great and broad, and it was built for those sheep. A tower high and great was built on the house for the Adon of the sheep. And the house was low, but the tower was elevated and high. And the Adon of the sheep stood on the tower, and they offered a full table before him. And again I saw the sheep, that they strayed and went many ways, and forsook that their house. And the Adon of the sheep called some from amongst the sheep, and sent them to the sheep. But the sheep began to slay them. So the prophets, and one of them was saved and was not slain, and it sped away and cried aloud over the sheep. And they sought to slay it, but the Adon of the sheep saved it from the sheep, and brought it up to me, and caused it to dwell there. And many other sheep he sent to those sheep to witness to them and lament over them. And I wonder if this is speaking about Elijah there, because he was, him and Enoch were the only ones called up. All right, 53. And many other sheep he sent to those sheep to witness to them and lament over them. And after that, I saw that when they forsook the house of the Adon and his tower, they fell away entirely, and their eyes were blinded. And I saw the Adon of the sheep, and how he wrought much slaughter amongst them in their herds, until those sheep invited that slaughter, and betrayed his place. And he gave them over into the hands of the lions and the tigers, and the wolves and hyenas, and into the hand of the foxes, and to all the wild beasts, into those wild beasts began to tear into pieces those sheep. And I saw that he forsook their house and their tower, and gave them all into the hand of the lions, to tear and devour them into the hand of all the wild beasts. And I began to cry aloud with all my might, to appeal to the Adon of the sheep, and to represent him in regard to the sheep, that they were devoured by all the wild beasts. But he remained unmoved, though he saw it, and he rejoiced that they were devoured and swallowed and robbed, and he left them to be devoured in the hand of all the beasts. And he called 70 shepherds, and cast those sheep to them, that they might pasture them. And he spoke to the shepherds and their companions, let each individual of you pasture the sheep hereon, and all that I shall command you, that do. And I will deliver them over to you, duly numbered, and tell you which of them are to be destroyed, and them you destroy. And he gave over to them those sheep. And he called another and spoke to him, observe and mark all that the shepherds will do to the sheep, for they will destroy more of them than I have commanded. And every excess and the destruction which will be wrought through the shepherds, record how many they destroy according to my command, and how many according to their own desire. Record against every individual shepherd all the destruction he effects. Man, this is a pretty long chapter, 63 verses so far. How many more do we got here? 76. And read out before me by number how many they destroy, and how many they deliver over for that destruction, that I may have this as a witness against them, and know every deed of the shepherds, that I may know and see what they do, whether or not they live by my command, which I have commanded them. But they shall not know it, and you shall not declare it to them, nor admonish them, but only record against each individual all the destruction which the shepherds effect, each in his time, and lay it all before me. And I saw until the shepherds pastured in their season, and they began to slay and to destroy more than they were ordered. And they delivered the sheep into the hands of the lions. And the lions and tigers ate and devoured the greater part of the sheep, and the wild boars ate along with them. And they burnt the tower and demolished the house. And I became exceedingly sorrowful over the tower, because of the house of the sheep it was demolished. And afterwards I was unable to see if the sheep entered the house. And the shepherds and their associates delivered over the sheep to all the wild beasts, to devour them. And each one of them received in his time a definite number, and it was written by the other in a book, how many each one of them destroyed of them. Sometimes some of this is worded a bit strangely. It's difficult to read. And each one slew and destroyed many more than was prescribed. And I began to weep and lament on account of those sheep. And thus in that vision I saw the one who wrote, how he wrote down every one that was destroyed by those shepherds, day by day, and carried up and laid down, and even showed the whole book to the Adon of the sheep, all that they had done, and all that each one of them had made away with, and all that they had given over to destruction. And the book was read before the Adon of the sheep. And he took the book from his hand and read it, and sealed it, and laid it down. And immediately I saw how the shepherds pastured for 12 hours, and see, 3 of those sheep turned back, and came and entered, and began to build up all that had fallen down of the house. But the wild boars tried to prevent them, and they were not able. And they began again to build as before, and they raised up the tower, and it was named the High Tower. And they began again to place a table before the tower, but all the bread on it was polluted and not pure. And as regarding all of this, the eyes of the sheep were blinded so that they did not see, and their shepherds likewise. And they delivered them in large numbers to their shepherds for destruction. And they trampled the sheep with their feet and devoured them. And the Adon of the sheep remained unmoved until all the sheep were dispersed all over the field and mingled with them. And they did not save them out of the hand of the beasts. And the one who wrote the book carried it up and showed it and read it before the Adon of sheep, and implored him on their account, and pleaded with him on their account, as he showed him all the doings of the shepherds, and gave witness before him against all the shepherds. And he took the actual book and laid it down beside him and departed. There's a whole lot packed into those last few chapters there, right? I think we might end it there for this evening, though. I think 90 is a nice, good number to end it. But yeah, lots of stuff in the last few chapters there. And hey, Shalom, Cheyenne. Glad you can make it. Yeah, so many connections. There really is. Literally to all of Scriptures, all the stories throughout Scriptures. You know, Enoch was shown all these things. All praise to the Most High Yahuah, honestly. And, you know, it's really sad that so many try to, you know, discredit and toss out the Book of Enoch. They say, oh, well, it doesn't line up, it doesn't match. Well, you know, we don't see any of that. We've read through 89 chapters now. All we see is confirmations. And, you know, especially when we were reading through that parallel Book of Enoch that parallels all the scriptures to the Book of Enoch, you know, we see that there's thousands of connections and parallels and cross-references. Yeah, exactly. It fills in a lot of those blanks. It really does. And it doesn't, you know, deter from anything. It doesn't contradict anything. It just all lines up 100%. And, you know, we read about the chapters of speaking about Messiah in the Day of Judgment, how Messiah is going to be the one judging all the sinners. And, you know, these books, they were all removed by Rabbi Akiba in the 1st century in that Council of Jamnia. A lot of people don't even know about it. And they keep it like that on purpose because they don't want you to know. They just want everybody to think, oh, these 66 books, that's all we got, that's all we need. No. I'm not saying that the 66 book can't start you off, but, you know, reading, studying, and testing all these quote-unquote apocryphal books, you know, it just adds so much more depth and detail into everything. And especially about the little season of deception. Yeah. No. There's a lot of stuff, you know, I hadn't heard of before, and that's why I like to share these things, because many haven't heard about a lot of these books. You know, especially the ones found in the Dead Sea Scrolls, you know, those are very important. And we can see all these books that we've been reading, they are found in the Dead Sea Scrolls, including the Testament of the 12 Patriarchs, Baruch. So many others are found in the Dead Sea Scrolls. Even, you know, extra psalms. David wrote a psalm for every single day of the year. He wrote a psalm for every Shabbat of the year, every festival. that's just things we don't get in the, quote unquote 66 book canon. But yeah, I think we will end it there for this evening, though. And thank you all for joining. And we will actually be meeting up this Shabbat again, and we're going to continue our Torah portions, including the Book of Jubilees, and we're going to get in Noah. And actually, the Book of Enoch here speaks about Noah as well. So we're going to be adding the Book of Enoch to this Torah portion as well coming up. Pretty excited for that. And hopefully there will be many there to add a lot of input like there was last weekend. It was Yahuah amazing. Yeah, you are most welcome. But yeah, so I plow that you have a Baruch rest of your Laylas, or your Bokers, or your Yoms, wherever you're at. And yeah, we will meet up here again on this Sunday. Shalom, Mishpacha, much love, and we will see you all soon.